Hi, everyone. So welcome back. We're doing a work from home survival chat. This is week 3. Today I have Jennifer Kessel, who is a National Director of Marketing. I think I said that right. I'll let her introduce herself in a second. I'm Kitty Kistler. I'm Executive Life Coach for executives and high-ranking entrepreneurs. And I have the Life First Solutions, which is a life management system helping you tackle your day easily and effectively. So I'm going to have Jennifer introduced herself today, and we're going to talk survival, insanity, and just taking your work, bringing it home with you, and how your world has come in with you, and what the expectations are. What are some of the conversations that need to just be opened up and exposed so that we know to get ourselves through this with our sanity left. And Jennifer, you've been working with your team both on the management end and adjusting on your own end. And so you're seeing both sides of it, which I think this conversation is going to be amazing in helping people understand how to bring the conversation to the management team and how the management team can bring the conversation to the staff. So go ahead and give us an intro and let us know what's happening in your world.
Sure. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it. So I'm Jennifer Kessel, and I am the National Marketing Director for a national insurance wholesaler. Wear many hats, so compliance and marketing and HR and just anything to do with the operations of a company in general. I am unpaid intern to corporate executive at the same company, just climbing the ladder, young. I have a 5-year-old, and so life is crazy. And definitely as we head into these unprecedented times, and no one in the world, not you, not I, not anybody, knows how to handle something like this. We haven't been through it before. Nobody, no matter where they are, has. And so it's hard to sometimes grasp at home and at work, like, do I know how to do this? Am I qualified to do this? What should I do? The answer is no one knows. So you got to do your best as you manage. And I laughed when you said sanity and, what did you say? Sanity and survival, because I don't know if they go together. They may, but there's definitely been those like up and down moments. And so I'm happy to be here today and talk to everybody about tips and tricks that I've had in not only managing a team. We have 220 across the country, and then I have a direct marketing team that I work with as well, and what we've done to go from being in an office together to working from home. And we did have about 10% of our staff at home before that, so what we did with them in order to be successful there. And then from perspective of a team member, how to deal with management and how our management team has handled this time.
Amazing. So there's a lot of work that has gone into it because 90% of you weren't at home. Yeah. But the nice thing is that you knew sort of the process of how to transition in. So did you find it to be extremely challenging, or did you find that the calmer you remained about it, putting the systems in place and just sort of what did that look like for you guys when you started putting that into place? Was it feeling really hectic, or did you sort of see it coming?
So we definitely we saw it coming. And I think because of my natural personality throughout the process as we were planning, I was like, oh my God, we're just so far behind, like, get this done now. And then I kind of looked around and I heard from others, and I heard from our team members who had spouses or friends in the same industry or outside the industry. And they're like, we're so far ahead of the curve. And I think it's just that natural, inclination to say we're behind. But we definitely, what we did is sat down, and there were 3 of us for 220 employees nationally that sat down, and we said, here's our plan. And here's how we're going to handle watching the geography of each office, because there's about 15 physical office locations, and how we're going to handle that. And I will tell you this, within 1 week of finalizing that plan, everybody was at home. So our plan was to do these trial work from homes, okay, office in California, you're going to work from home this day. We're going to practice. No, there was no practicing. It went right into, this is it. And everybody start getting your stuff home. I will say that Our team did it well. We have systems in place that I think made it easy, but definitely remaining calm and tackling issues as they come up and not overlooking them. So what's the problem and what's the solution? A
Yeah.
lot of times we can get into this, the sky's falling, everything's falling apart, what's going on? And if we just focus on what's the problem and what are the possible solutions, let's pick one and let's go. It may not be in hindsight the best, but I guarantee you it's better than doing nothing. And so that's how we handled it. And it worked out really well. And everyone's at home successfully working now. So
I love it. Like, and a nod to you guys for being the calm in the chaos, because I think one of the things, and this conversation I keep seeing it and engaging in it when it does come up, because I'm so curious how people are leaning in. And you and I just talked a little bit about vulnerability right before we popped on, but leadership right now, the leaders are being called forward because we don't really, just as you said, it's so unprecedented. No one has ever been here before. It is brand new. No rule book has been written. Nothing has been done. And we really do look for, and the old saying goes, right, look for the helpers, but we need to look to our leaders, like, how are they handling this? Because when our leaders start to panic, we all panic, right? Or when the leaders find it to be too exhausting and overwhelming, then we take it on as it's too exhausting and overwhelming. And like, commendable for 3 of you to take on, that's 100 people, more than 100 people per person to think about and to understand their situations, and we're in different states too, because you're not all in the same state. Right. So regulations and rules, that's huge, to be able to just stay calm in the face of panic, when you easily could have been like, we don't know, so we're shutting it down for 2 weeks and then we'll get back. I mean, people then lose their minds, right?
Right.
That's everything. But you allow them to know financially we're still here, and physically we're not together, but we're still together. And yeah. So now what is it? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. Sorry to interrupt you. I think what you just said is key. So if you're a leader right now and you're watching this and you're like, how do I reassure my team? You need to reassure them by showing up your face. So Zoom or, GoToMeeting, whatever it is, make sure you're face to face. And conference calls are great, but face to face and seeing them, especially, we have so many people right now that are by themselves at home. And that sucks. Like, no, it doesn't matter who you are, that sucks. And you as a leader have a responsibility to make sure that that person is just not okay, like logging in every day, but mentally they're okay.
Yeah.
And so the more that we can do that in supporting each other, the better. Now, if you're on the other side of that and you're a team member and you're like, what the heck? My leaders haven't given me that. They haven't reassured me that everything's okay. Ask questions. It's okay to ask questions. It's okay to say, talk to me where we're at financially and how long we think we're going through this. I know we've committed to a company. We've told everyone how financially strong it is and how we've committed to getting through this without layoffs. If your leadership isn't giving that to you, ask for it. Ask what their plan is. It's okay. You can do that in a way that doesn't question who they are as leaders or question their leadership style, and just be generally curious and concerned, because this is your future and it's your family that's at stake. So I think those are things that we can do on both sides to help.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing. And that honesty that you get whenever you, when you have a little bit more transparency from the company side, checking in with the employee is also going to be easier. If they're going to give you a little more transparency, where they're able to say, like, okay, they have been honest with me, I'm going to be honest with them. Like, I'm not okay, or I need someone to really check in, or I need to have a sidebar conversation. Because you're right, there are people who, sure, there are some of us that are just like, we're doing school, we're doing this, we have partners at home, we have new coworkers, it's hard to wrap around that. But then, and I know personally, we have the isolation factor of people who do not have anyone. And some of them have been off work even longer because of being immune compromised. They lost their jobs sooner, not lost their jobs, transitioned sooner, I should say.
Sure.
And because of that, we're seeing, it's starting to take a toll. I personally can't imagine being someone who's isolated 100% by myself, for now probably 6-7 weeks, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, that's amazing on the part of you guys as well from the management side, is to be that transparent factor, but also to be checking in, because you're right, that does absolutely have to happen.
And part of that has to be on like the team members. I can tell you yesterday. So in this, and in being vulnerable and being transparent, here's a great example. So in my personal life, I am, everybody knows me, I'm full of, I practice gratitude every morning, and I live and thrive in the personal development space. I just love it. I am upbeat and energetic. I write every morning. I radiate energy and positivity. That's like just me. But I will tell you, in the corporate world, I struggle with that a little bit, of showing I'm in a male-dominated industry, in a older male-dominated industry. Now, I'm fortunate that my company is made up of a lot of young, in fact, a lot of young women on the executive level. And so it's a different environment, but it took me a while. And in fact, it took me till recent to say to everybody in the company, like, this is who I am. So I would say like maybe a small group of them got the full me, the full energy, the craziness and all of that. But it took me a while to have a conversation with a few people. And I'm like, you know what? Not just my team of young women right now can use this energy and this positivity. And really my first like, oh, maybe I'll do this, is going to be next week, when I host I'm hosting a 30-minute call with our entire company, optional, if they, about gratitude and how to bring gratitude and joy into your life. And I can tell you right now, if this was 7 weeks ago and we were still going through the daily life and the daily grind of things, I would have never done that. But it's part of me being, again, like that transparency and that vulnerability, and it's showing the team like who I really am, which a lot of us are struggling with. Like, how do you show up as a like vulnerable and transparent person when you know there's going to be judgment, right? So I think even those who look like, people look at me and I'm a corporate executive and I've made it to this level, I still have growing to do, and I still have growth in being transparent with everybody. And I still struggle. I can tell you right now, first week and a half, I was home, and this is recorded, so I probably shouldn't say it, but the first week and a half I was home, I was like, give me the best divorce attorney that you can give me. And listen, just this month, I'll be married 1 year. We've been together for much longer, but 1 year. And I was like, sign me up, because this is not working. But we found our way, you know what I mean? And just because I'm where I'm at, it doesn't mean I'm perfect. And just because you see my social media role or whatever it is, I'm not perfect. I haven't figured it all out, and none of us have. And we're foolish if we think we have. So, yeah, I don't know, just that's like I guess my push to be vulnerable and more transparent with my company, and then with the greater community that I have around me.
I love it. And coming from an employee to leader status, like if you're looking up, you're looking at people saying, I want to lead like her. Like, I want to feel strong, and I want to feel like I can be confident, and I can find, there's never, I don't really want to say there's a silver lining in it, but I want to be optimistic, and I want to be hopeful, and I want to have the faith in this, that, things are not going to change. This isn't the permanent, we're going to get out of this, and this is temporary. And when we come out on the other side, I want to be good inside. And like, that's such an amazing thing for you to provide them, is even if it's 30 minutes to show them, like, this is how you can wake up every day and do a little bit for yourself. It starts to build up in them, and that just solidifies to them, like, she is someone who cares about us. She cares about herself. Like, it goes beyond just, let's get the work done and clock out at the end of the day. Like, that's just that brings everybody together. And like, that is so necessary in business to begin with, but especially for women in business, because we are heart-centered. Like, that is that's just who we are by nature.
And that's okay, because for the longest time, I was like, I can't be like that, right? I have to, in order to play with the big boys, I got to act like the big boys. You do not. You do not have to. And if you are a team member, first of all, no matter where you're at in your career or where you sit on your team, you can be a leader. You don't have to be a manager to be a leader. And that may look like, I can tell you right now, one of my graphic and web designers, she was like, you know what? I don't really understand what's going on in the 401k world with all the volatility in the marketplace. Can you get somebody to do a webinar on that? And I was like, absolutely, turned it over to HR. She's leading that charge as the graphic and web designer, speaking up and saying, I need this. Everyone else is asking the same dang question. So am I. I'm going to sit on the webinar. But had she not used her voice and have been a leader in that manner, we would have not done that, right? And so I think that people get caught up in management and titles, and you can be that leader without. You can start sending positivity notes to your coworkers, or send an email that has a little inspiration. I found something yesterday that was like 5 questions to ask yourself every day in quarantine, and there were things like, what am I grateful for? How am I moving my body today? How am I getting outside today? And I just sent that around to everyone, and I can tell you the response was overwhelming. And it was young, older, male and female. I was shocked, and a lot of people said, I needed that really bad right now. It didn't have to be me that said that out. Someone can send that anytime they want. And so I think that we can all be leaders no matter where we're at in life, and don't let that like management or that title get caught up in your head of whether or not you're capable of leading.
Or allowed to, right? Allowed to, because you're right. Like, there's so many people that we need them to speak up, because we only think what we think and we only know what we know. And so when somebody brings it to your attention, you might be like, oh, I can answer that. Or just like you said, there's someone else in this building that can do it, or there's someone else on this team that can do it. And we get that, we get that done. I'm going to introduce, I think it's either Carolina or Carolina. I'm going to say
Hi.
Hi. I wanted to bring you on and have you see if you had any questions, and then I was going to hit one topic before we log off, which is to talk to Jennifer about, as we start to work back into transitioning back to work. She mentioned yesterday so much about, or the other day, speaking up whenever, and this is, I think, going to be the huge bulk of it, like what women have to do to make sure that we ensure our position and we have our job, but also are still able to take care of our family, just because we're not going back to school this year. We're not, all of those things have changed. But I wanted to bring you on and say hi, because you put some notes in here. So tell me again, is it Carolina or Carolina?
Yes, it's Carolina, and I really appreciate this opportunity to speak with you and to learn from you guys. I am also a female professional in a male-dominated industry. I also deal with the same issues. Now, I am not a mother. However, a lot of my colleagues are, and I find it very interesting what's happening during this transition, that my female colleagues are a lot of times the ones with the kiddos on their laps, trying to be the executives and the professionals that they are, while our male colleagues, just like we are when we're working in the real world, unfortunately tend to have a wife at home. And so we are always challenged with, I think women are just powerful. And I really appreciate this conversation. I feel like the more women like you have these kinds of conversations, the more we can hopefully change the world a little bit for those generations coming after us, and make this a little bit of a better environment for them. But great topics. I appreciate all the wisdom. I think it's all such a crazy time for all of us. And I think that it's a great opportunity. I'm seeing it as a time to learn and grow, which is why I jumped on this webinar, because most of the time I'm too busy. I've got too many phone calls. I'm on the road for my job. I drive about 60,000 miles a year for my typical territory, because I'm in sales. So right now, with being at home, I'm having a hard time adjusting from being in the car on the go to being in front of a computer. But I also see it as, okay, this is the universe kind of making me stretch, and also as an opportunity to learn. So kudos to you guys. I appreciate you, and keep throwing that wisdom my way.
Carolina, let's talk about what you said for a second, because I think this is so important. And so many folks have not been able to do this yet. But the fact that you said, I'm used to being on the road and I'm not right now. And I don't want to get into specifics, but I also have a sales team and we're seeing sales decline, right? And I think that's pretty much what we're hearing across the board. But that can be hard. But look at what you did in reframing that and say, this time is meant for me to learn and to grow and to like maybe step fully into who I'm meant to be instead of I have to be at home, this is happening. That is a fantastic reframing of this situation. And a lot of people, I think, I read somewhere that like, oh, instead of saying I have to stay home, I'm safe at home. Like, what a blessing that we get to be at home in the safety of our own homes. And instead of looking at it as we have to be here, and trust me, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I have not said, get me the heck out of here. Because I have, and it's been hard, and I get that, but that doesn't mean you can't still find gratitude in the fact that you do get to be at home and you're safe here.
Thank you. And Jennifer, I have a question for you, because you mentioned opening yourself up during this time and allowing your colleagues to see a different part of you by sharing your gratitude webinar that you're going to do with them. I'm very curious how that's going to go. I would love to hear back more about that, because I know I'm a very spiritual person. I'm a growth person. I'm on kind of a similar journey as you. And I find myself that sometimes when I speak up and I say things like the universe, or, I say things like, I'm grateful for this, all the things that in the bubble of those people who are growth oriented the way we are understand. Sometimes when I see my corporate colleagues, and you can tell that it bounces off of them and they're sort of like, oh, that's weird. Right. So I'll be curious what the response would be like. And then how do you deal with that as a result?
Yeah, so when you say that, I will say this. There are so many conversations that I've had in the last 6 weeks with people from all walks of life, different genders in different ages. And I always try to like feed this into them, right? Because I think the world needs compassion right now. We need to show gratitude. We need all those things. And so if I can be a piece of that, I want to be. And so every single time that I felt, oh, they think I'm crazy, that's another one that thinks I'm crazy, I'm shocked by how many of those folks have come back to me and they've said, wow, you really changed my mindset. Wow, what you said. I actually had one person, I was like on this, I call them rants. I was on my soapbox, I was on a rant, and I was like, hung up the phone, I was like, she thinks I'm nuts. She thinks I'm crazy. And it's like, she leads the organization of a board that I sit on. So I'm like, she really thinks I probably have to be kicked off the board. And she reached out to me afterward and she said, what you said to me was so profound. And you said that you wrote a similar letter in your internal newsletter. Can you send that to me? Because I really needed those words. And so I think sometimes because we take that feedback and and if you're anything like me, you internalize every single response that someone had to you and you think about it beyond what you should. We think that they think we're probably crazy, but really they're like internalizing it and thinking about it. And even if it's not that moment that it impacts them, it maybe gets them to think a little bit differently. But I will definitely be glad to share how it goes and what the feedback is. And who the heck, I might only have like 3 people out of 220 sign up. I don't know, but we're going to do it.
It's all right, because that's the thing. Like, anyone can catch a replay, right? So just make sure that you make sure it's accessible, because there's going to be a moment, just like you said, you plant the seed, then you water the seed grows, and people will come back and say, you planted that seed in me so long ago, and like today I heard it, or today I felt it, or today I saw it. And that's the important part, is that you're putting yourself out there to help in that capacity to plant those seeds. Yeah, I think we should do a follow-up. I was thinking that too, but I'm excited to see how that goes for you, because it is it's important. And I agree with Carolina too, that the language, how people will receive it, will be interesting, because now it's different. When you looked at it 8 weeks ago, people were like, whatever, gratitude, schmatitude,
Right? Yeah.
In November, like, isn't that enough? And it's like, Yeah, but now I think people really are so much more grateful, or at least acknowledging what they actually have, what they need, what they want. You know, those things are starting to play into the conversation. You know, and all of those things. I'm glad that you guys talked about that point. The other point that I wanted to bring up that Carolina that you mentioned was the male role, even in the virtual world, and how that is so true, right? That we just aren't seeing, it's not the talk about moms and or dads working. Like the stress doesn't seem to be coming from the dad side. And granted, maybe they're just not talking about it. And I know there's all, but you're right. You're seeing the moms who are like trying to silence and shush, but that's always been the case. And Jennifer, you and I talked about it. My connection says unstable, so I'm hoping that we stay connected. But you and I talked about it the other day that I was saying, you know, so many women have already in business been that type that's like, I can't take a sick day. You know, you can't get sick today, or we can't have school canceled because I need this job. I need this job. And it's always on, it feels like it's always on us to hide the kids, silence the kids, do the thing that's like, I don't have kids. Even in job interviews, you know, it's like, nope, no kids. you don't want them to be like, oh, here we go. And you do get that in some situations, some feedback. And I mean, I worked with all women and I got that feedback, which is how I left corporate. I was like, I just don't understand how you're not on my side on this. So yeah, I think that's hard. So coming back into it, when we start to transition back, when we see the cities and states and countries open back up, and we're starting to see people go back into work, what do you think the conversation needs to be so that we stop hiding children and saying like, this is honestly what has to happen? I mean, there's no other way.
So I think, unfortunately, it's going to look differently for every company, right? But I think, however, if you start to have that conversation now, no one likes surprises, and that's a manager or a team member. And so if you're a team member or a manager, start having that conversation right now with your team, or start having that right now with your manager to say, hey, look, I know we're not opening back up right now physically, but I know we will eventually, and I'm a little bit nervous because I don't have school in session anymore, or the daycare isn't open yet. And see what their plan is, because ultimately they have to have a plan. And you mama, you can be a good mama and you can be a good businesswoman. Trust me, you can do that. And so in order to do that, because it's a lot, it's so much pressure, you have to ask for grace. And so as you're going along and you're talking to your managers, you ask for grace. You say like, I don't, you know, have a real vulnerable conversation with them. Hey, I don't want to curse on here. I don't have all my stuff together and I don't know what this looks like. And I need some help. And I would be willing to bet that most of those conversations, even if in our head, they're like, they're going to fire me, they're going to tell me I don't have a job, I guarantee you that most of the time, those are going to be okay conversations. Yeah. If you do not put the expectation on yourself that you can have it all, because you can't, right? There has to be some give and take. And so if you set that expectation with yourself, then those conversations will be okay. And I think it's like Brene Brown. I want to say it's Brene Brown. She says like, these are difficult conversations. I'm not saying they're easy. And I'm fortunate to have a boss that supports me and supports my family and my son. And, but I know that they're not easy, but can you get through 10 seconds of pain? Can you get through the 10 seconds of pain that it's to have that conversation? All you have to do is start it. All you have to do is type that email, whatever it is. And if you can get through that, you can get through the rest. And that will be so much easier than speaking that first word to bring up those conversations. But you've got to have them now. You have to say, this is something I'm concerned about. It's something that's on my mind, and see where they're at. Because we, as a company, we have a plan for that. We know that our single mamas that have nobody else at home with them are probably not going to be back in the office. And we're okay with that. Mm-hmm. We know that not everybody has a husband that's staying home right now. I'm fortunate that my husband is off work right now. And it's a blessing in disguise because he takes care of my son all day. And that's been phenomenal. Not everybody has that. And so we as a company understand that. You need to get the understanding of what is your company's temperature for that scenario, and what are they thinking and what's on their mind, because the sooner you do that, the sooner you can prepare, and it's not all of a sudden chaotic at the last minute. You don't know what you're doing and everyone's crazy and no one's calm and it's just chaotic. So I would encourage you, no matter how hard it seems, reach out to Katie, reach out to me, whoever you need to, have those conversations via Zoom meeting, pretend, so that you have the strength and the courage to do it in real life, because you have to.
I think something interesting that's happening right now is that the dynamic has completely changed. Prior to this, I will be honest with you, and maybe this is wrong of me, but I'll be honest with you. I don't think I even knew what Zoom was, or at least I had no experience with Zoom. Yeah. Now I'm a Zoomie just like all of you. So I think we've all increased our skill set. And I think that is something for those who are nervous about how I'm going to return to work. Let's not forget, you've now figured out how to work from home. That's a huge bonus. Some companies would prefer to have more employees at home because that also reduces some overhead costs. So I think we're going to see a tremendous shift in the workplace. And there's a big opportunity for those who want to be ambitious about it, and they can be on the front lines of this change that's going to occur in our workplace.
I agree with that so much. I think that this will change, that we're not all going to go back to the office anyway, because I think business will understand that they're saving a lot of money. Just think about parking passes and bus, like all those things that they help to help you with or whatever. But when you look at the bottom line and the overhead, I do see change coming with that as well, no matter which direction it comes from. But that's a positive. I think that we're going to have to learn to work from home, right, in a more virtual way. And I do agree. We've increased our skill sets. I mean, I've been doing this for 5 years, so for me, it seems like pretty natural. But I know that I've helped so many people in the last couple of weeks who have just been like, how do you do this? And I'm like, it's, once you get going, it's not so bad.
Right.
But yeah, like I've seen so many people grow on their own, or have to just retail business alone. I've seen, the increase in the skill sets that they've learned, and they've gone online and they're killing it right now. I mean, killing it, probably way more than they were doing originally in some aspects. But yeah, it is amazing the expectations that we hold on ourselves. And I appreciate you saying, like, reach out to one of us, because I think it's a very valid thing that you said we can practice through this. Like that's exactly right. Like we can practice through this. Obviously, I'm good for the coaching side and helping you to just sort it out. But Jennifer, if you're willing to offer that, that's amazing too, because you're from the management side and you can very easily say, this is probably the feedback that you're going to get, and this is probably the resistance, or this is this. But it's crucial to know we have to push the plan. We have to say to the leaders and the managers, like, what is the next step? Because if they don't have one together, they need to get one in place, just because it has to be. This is the world that we live in now, is we have to be prepared for action. Like, no matter what, we now need to always be prepared in case this ever happens again. And we just didn't see it coming, I
think that the same thing that, in business, what we've been saying and really what everybody should be saying is that if we want to open, let's just say March 15th or May 15th, I don't know what May 15th, what day of week it is.
Right.
We've got to plan now for what that looks like.
Right.
And so the same thing, like you're thinking, oh, well, maybe they'll open mid-May or June or whenever. You've got to be planning what that looks like for you. And again, having those conversations. And I want to go back to something you guys were talking about, like now we can work from home and we've acquired these skill sets. And I definitely think there are companies that will say these positions or these types of people can be at home and they can successfully do that. now is not the time to slack off. It's not the time to kick your feet up and relax. It's the time to show your employer that, yes, I'm here. Yes, I want to do it. And yes, I can successfully do it. Because the more that you put into that, the more you have a basis to now say, look at what I was able to accomplish while I wasn't in the office. And I can do that moving forward if I need to. So I think it goes two ways from, having an employer that is understanding, of course, but then showing up as an employee every single day or a team member of that team and doing the best that you can with what you have. And that's your equipment and your space at home. So it's important to continue that and not just be like, oh, gotta catch up on some Netflix now, because it will catch up to you and you won't have the stats to show, hey, I'm capable of this. I've got this from home. I don't need to return to the office.
Right. With the understanding too that do it, show up, show what you're capable of, because it's so powerful.
Mm-hmm.
But started small because you never want to, just back to the expectation thing. You just never want to take on too much because you will fail yourself, which it ultimately will bog the system, but at the same time, this is your time to really, we don't have to fit inside this little box anymore. We can say, hey, I can bring this to the table. I know how to do something that maybe you guys don't know, or I came from a place that did a little bit more virtual. I can show you this. Like, so amazing the things that we can share and help out with and change the culture. Because like you said, old culture is in your business. That's a lot of places. Not every place is a new cultured business. Some of them are just old style, which is normal, and changing that culture too. We got to update it just a bit. And there are people in here that can do that, that's why I have a teenage daughter that's been helping.
Yeah.
It helps. Like, she knows stuff that I don't know. And it's like, wow, that really, really helps me out. So I will ask either one of you if you want to bring something else to life. Because I'm going to wrap it up so that I don't take up anybody else's time too much. But anything that you had thought about, wanted to hit on, anything else you want to wrap up with?
I have something to add. This is something that has been a topic of conversation with my colleagues, and I think we're going to have a session on, Jennifer, since you mentioned you're going to be doing a session on gratitude. What about empathy? Because whether it's empathy with your inside stakeholders, external stakeholders, how do we navigate business and still, get things done while being empathetic to different people's situations? Because how we are handling this and what we are facing in our own lives looks very different for everybody. I know I've got a couple of external customers that actually have been diagnosed with COVID, dealing with it extremely well. They have a mild case, but nevertheless, I can't imagine what's on their mind with little kids at home. So then how do I approach that? Are you guys, okay, how do I approach that person knowing that they're dealing with that? I think that we are all facing new situations, so empathy plays a very big role. And I would just like to throw that out there for maybe future sessions.
That's an amazing conversation to have, and that can be, definitely should be a conversation. And I don't know if Jennifer has anything to add to it, but I would just say that's where we really have to dig deep sometimes, is to say, not everyone is facing the same situation as us, and that we just need to be able to show up for them as they need us to. Right now, whether it's mental health or whether is the diagnosis. I mean, that's scary, scary stuff right now, to be diagnosed or even feel like you might have it. And all of those things that we're navigating. And when we can start to lean in and love on other people just because they're human, but that's deep. That takes some inner work if you're not somebody who has that compassion, that empathy naturally. But yeah, that's definitely a conversation we can have.
So Carolina, I've been telling our sales team, we have about 75 sales team members, true salespeople, and I've been telling them right now is not a time for a sales strategy.
Right.
If you have a sales strategy right now, you will fail. If you have a compassion strategy, you will succeed. And it's not going to be success right now, right? You're not going to see your numbers skyrocket right now unless you're a rep selling face mask. I'm not sure, but it will come out on the other side, because those people that are struggling, they need you to be like, I'm here for you. And what is it that you need from me?
Right.
Not here's what I have to sell you, or here's what I need from you. I need some, sales in the door. It's like, what can I do for you? And that looks different from every customer. That looks different from every team member. Same with my team. That's how I've led. Like, we need to have a compassion strategy, and that does not mean that people don't get to work, and that doesn't mean they don't have to show up. It just means that we give a little bit more flexibility. And I'll tell you real quick, and I don't want to take up too much time, but yesterday I had a guy follow up like 4 times with somebody else on something I had already handled. So I reached out to him, I CC'd the other person. I said, hey, I'm just checking in to see if there's anything you needed. I think we had this wrapped up a few weeks ago, but is there anything else I can provide? And our team member that was involved came back and said, you're so nice about things like, and I said, well, to be honest, he probably has 15 other projects or dozens of other projects he's working on. He just hasn't marked it off his list. And that's okay, because the world needs compassion right now.
Yeah.
So if I can be compassionate and understanding and not send a snarky response back that attaching my original response when it was handled, then I'm going to do that. And I think we all, again, Kitty, you hit it on the head when you said we've got to dig deep. We've got to dig deep and find that compassion for each other, because that's how we get through this. And so I think that definitely needs to be in the workplace. And listen, my gratitude series, it starts with gratitude, but we're going on half-an-hour sessions every week. People can join in about different topics. This may be one of them. Yeah.
Oh, and I was under the understanding you were just doing a one-time thing. That's amazing that you're going to do it every week. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Every week, some kind of development, bring it to, and we've been hyper focused on, we have a mental health series launching today, and we're talking about moving our bodies next week. And we introduced all our new coworkers. We're really trying, right now is the time to build a positive culture all the way through, and let your team, if you're a manager, trust me, your team's hungry for that. They want that and they need that. And if you're a team member, you can bring your ideas up, say, hey, I think this is a great thing. And not only, hey, I think it's a great idea, here, let me hand it to you to handle, but I've thought it through, and here's the action that we need to take. And oh, by the way, I can handle that. Yeah. And now you're not a leader by title, but you've become a leader on your team and for your company. And that's powerful.
So powerful. Yeah. So powerful. And so,
I just want to end with one thing, and then I'll be done, because I could talk like this all day.
I was going to say, you and I are going to have another chat, and maybe Carolina will join us for that one too, and we'll all chat again, because I think this definitely is more than a one-part series.
Yeah. I read something the other day. I read a quote, and I think it's profound, and I shared this with Kitty already, but a lot of what we're talking about right now is being positive and being proactive and all those things, and that doesn't have to be every day. Right? You don't have to wake up every day saying, I'm going to crush it today. But when you don't wake up on those days feeling like that, bounce back tomorrow. Don't let it go 7 days. Don't let it go 14 days. Don't let it go a whole month and think I'll do it later. Bounce back quicker. And I read this quote, and it says, being positive doesn't mean being happy all the time. It just means on the bad days, you know that there are better days ahead of you. And so I really encourage you guys to have that instilled inside of you, and know that you don't have to be happy all the time. And this is hard. These conversations is hard. What's happening to the economy and to lives, it's hard stuff, and it's crushing. And the conversations I've had, I'm telling you, they're some of the hardest I had in my career, and I've cried tears with spouses. I've done all the things over the last 6 weeks. But you can get through it, and there are brighter days ahead of us. And if you can hold to that, if you cling to that every single day, your mindset will change.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And it's not about being, I call it superficial positivity. It's not about that, or that toxic positivity where it's like, oh, it's fine, everything's going to be fine. Or just think positive, because you can't always. Positive thinkers, people who are positive framed, mind framed, have done that work, have just found what to be grateful in, and have understood, yes, this is temporary, the next thing is going to be better. And to also know what it is that you want, right? Because right now, if you're really highly super sensitive to what your culture is at work and it's not working for you, this might be a good time to figure out what you want, because it's, you know, things are going to change. And if you're afraid to have those conversations, or you're resistant because you're unsure that they've handled things the right way, this might be a good time to just really dig deep in, what is it that I want? You know, is this the direction that I want to go? And how do I stay positive? Is this job going to keep me positive going forward, or is this something that I just feel like isn't for me? You know, there's so many things that we can spark out of that. But yeah, that's an amazing way to look at it, is that it's not always perfect.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have to be, but we just have to remember that better things are coming.
I'm glad you guys said that, because I literally ate 4 pieces of sponge candy this morning for breakfast.
Oh, yeah.
And it was like one of those mornings where I'm like, okay, so that's what happened.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
you know, I walked 7 miles last night and I ate 4 pieces of chocolate today. And it's just because I felt overwhelmed, and I think I had like an emotional moment. But something I want to throw out, and then I know we have to stop, but this reminded me, Jennifer, of what you said. Our attitude and how we feel translates to the vibe that we give off to others. And I think you guys, I'm sure, both are familiar with that. Our vibes are so powerful and it changes everything. I recently came across a podcast where they were talking about our vibes and like a vibe scale, where fear and anger are at the bottom of the scale and love and compassion are at the very top. And there's a lot of emotions that we feel in between. And I think all of us, all day long, we are somewhere on that scale, going back and forth, back and forth. And I think being aware of that scale, and sometimes being able to say, wow, I am living in fear right now, which is why I'm putting off, you know, maybe a negative email to a colleague or a snarky response or whatever's happening. So Jennifer, I'm going to send you a picture of this scale. I think it's a very interesting thing to be aware of and maybe have in front of you. And then once in a while, look at it to make sure to check in with yourself. Where am I on this scale? And then what can I do to take myself from, you know, one emotion to the next that's going to bring me closer to giving off more of that love and compassion that we're speaking of?
Oh, so good. Yeah. So good, right? Because you're right, we're all there. And that 4 pieces of candy didn't kill the 7 miles. No, you know, but we give up so easily. We're like, well, screw it, never again. And it's like, more candy. So what? So you just had a moment, and now you just get back on, because you know that at the end of the day, you can do this. Like, it is candy. It will pass through your system, you know? Right. And so you just know that you can't do that for every meal, even though we might like to. But yeah, so thank you both for being here and giving me your time. And I'm going to welcome you back to have another conversation with me for sure. I want to give everybody the information before we log off. I have a 5-day journal challenge starting next week. It's free. It's emailed to you so that you can work it whenever works for you, because some people like to journal in the morning, the night, or the middle of the afternoon when they just need a break. So it's just an email prompt every day to get you really thinking, to do that inner work, to stay positive. I'll leave the link, if you're watching on YouTube, I'll leave the link in the comments below, but it is in the chat room right now. And if you are working from home, transitioning to working from home, just unsure of how to work from home, we have the group Working Together, Working from Home. It's on Facebook. It's free to join. Jennifer's in there. I don't know, Carolina, if you are in there, but you're welcome to join it. And I would love for these conversations to become more and more apparent in that group as well, so that we can bring women to a whole new level once we get from this stage of survival into what the next step of the chapter is. So I think it would be amazing. I appreciate both of you so much. And I want you to have a fantastic afternoon and just go out there and kick ass.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank
Good day,
you.
guys.